Hello everyone and welcome to this week's recap. This week we had 4 trades overall, accounting for 1 loss and 3 wins. So over the whole week we made 2% on our account, which was really good to see, and just sort of hammers home the 67-70% win rate that it seems that we've got from our data. So I'm going to take you through each trade as we go to talk about what I did well, what I didn't do well, the reasons that we won, the reasons that we lost, and sort of how you can implement that into your strategy to hopefully get some wins. Okay, so just here on Monday we started and we had this massive move down on the Friday before and the Saturday, okay? And so we were pretty confident that we were going to get a move up during the week, okay? And that's why I talked about last week that our bias was longs. And as you can see, over the week, we did generally move towards the upside, okay? So we were pretty spot on with that. And then obviously once we had a massive move at CPI, it did retrace, but our overall bias was correct. Okay, so we were moving up and I didn't see really anything that I quite liked on Monday. You can see here that it's sort of quite choppy action. There was no real zones that it left for us. And then here it closed close to above, but it didn't quite. And it was just a bit of a, it was just a bit of a here nor there day. So moving on to Tuesday, we actually got a break to the downside, okay? So we got a change of character just here. All right, so that switches our bias to bearish. Okay, and what we saw here, I counted this as a break of structure, okay? Because we did have a move up followed by a move down, and it took about 5 candles to get there. So usually for me, that's the sweet spot. In hindsight, maybe that wasn't big enough. Maybe I do need to let price develop a bit more because I took a 3 or 5 minute zone off of here, off the top. And as you can see, this is on the 15, but it still applies. It tapped in here on this candle and then it closed below on the 5 minutes. So that was enough for me to enter. And then as you can see, literally within the 15 minutes, we got stopped out, but that was fine. We'll just stick to the process. So the next one, we got a change of character here internally, and then it broke right back down for another change of character. So our mindset is still bearish. Okay. We marked out this zone here, which was at the top. It was also the protected high at that time. All right. We waited for price to get up there. It did wick up here, but that was before it came back down. So that was fine. Even if we'd gotten, it just didn't trigger us in. So there was no dramas there. It closed below and then we entered in and then we won that trade within 15 minutes, okay? Perfect trade. Looked really nice. It had liquidity here, which we love to see. And it also had a bit of imbalance as well, drawing that back up. So that was a really good trade. And yeah, it was a win. So then they were both on Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, we didn't really find anything we quite liked. So if I mark it how I would have done, break of structure here, we would have been targeting somewhere around here. It only retraced to this point and then broke again. So we move on. I've marked out this zone, waiting for that. Didn't get it. We then got another break of structure, and this is where I marked out my zone, okay? Now, this was a bit of a tricky one because it came back down into our zone and it tapped us in about here, which is where I entered, okay? And as you can see, it wicked down pretty close to stopping us out, all right? So if I stuck to my absolute rules of entering on a close of a 5 minute, we would have stayed in the trade, okay? The problem is with my personal account, there's 0 spreads, okay? So price can get to pretty much there and it still won't stop me. However, if you're on a funded account, if it's within 3 or 4, 0.3 or 4, it can stop you. So look, it was a win, but a bit hesitant to be honest. So because, I will take a lot of trades on the funded and therefore that's a bit different to the personal. So that's a bit of a monitor just there, just to see how often that happens. But as for now, it is a win because we're hopefully going to be trading on the personal for a lot longer than the funded. But yeah, just a bit of a monitor because it was 0.7. So it wouldn't have got stopped, but just a monitor there. Okay. And the last one, we got this massive move up for CPI. We got a breaker structure just here, which means that this was our low, and then that got broken. Okay. So our bias has now flipped to bearish. We get a nice breaker structure here. At this point, as I talked about in yesterday's video, it did get tapped. So that would have been a valid trade, but it was during news. So yeah, it was not really a valid trade. But if it wasn't at news, that would have been perfect, but it was. Anyway, we just wait for price to develop. We get a nice breaker structure here. And what happened, we were waiting for price to come up into our 5-minute zone, okay? So this larger box here is our 5-minute zone, okay? And that's what I had marked. And so we entered off of that just here. And we won the trade pretty quickly. However, the actual move was using us as liquidity. It was using us as liquidity and then coming back down, tapping the 3-minute and wiping out this liquidity. And then this was where the big move was. But, you know, it was only marginally bigger. It went to a 3 risk to reward rather than a 1.5. So it was 2 times as big, but they all got wiped out anyway due to this news event. And then, yeah, that rounded off the week just here. So, yeah, overall, that is the weekly recap. We were able to take away 2% for this week, which was really good to see. And, yeah, we'll be back next week, try and get another 2%, 2 or 3%, and, yeah, see how we go. Keep adding to our data. Overall, we've made 11% in the last couple of months with this strategy, so it obviously works. We're just going to keep hammering it through and seeing how good we can get. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. It really helps out these videos. Really appreciate the support. We've been getting a few more views than normal, so it's good to see. Thanks again, and I'll see you tomorrow for the weekly outlook.